Hey, good morning everyone. Hopefully you can hear me over the wind. Just wanted to give you a quick update. So the cows definitely have not been getting enough to eat. And she's kind of posturing up on me, but you can see there's a good indicator right there. That death triangle, that paralumbar fossa is what it's called, is just sunk. And she's a dry cow. So if she is sunken in right there in front of the hip bone, then that's a good indicator she's not getting enough to eat. But she's not the only one. This guy here, he's sunken in as well. He's a little harder to tell because his fur, his hair coat is thicker than the rest, but he's definitely sunken in right here, especially in the sunlight. I could tell that he was a bit underfed. She is looking skinny as all get out, and she's already a small heifer. She's a very petite heifer. She has that calf on her, so she's lactating, but let's see if I can get a good shot of her paralumbar fossa. She is sunk. So this is obviously she's one of the bigger ones that I want to watch, because her not getting enough to eat is going to directly affect her ability to rebreed and possibly grow that calf that's hopefully inside of her, but then obviously raise up this young heifer calf that she has on her now. So, she's a big concern. Her not getting enough to eat. I mean, her hip bone, just where it sinks in after that hip bone, is very pronounced. Another big indicator for me is this girl right here. So, Fat Abby, as you may have heard me refer to her as before, and that's because she's just a big girl. She's a dry heifer, hasn't had a calf yet. She's always the heaviest every time we go to the vet. She's always, you can tell she's got some fat on her, right? Like, look at that tail head. It's wrinkly. She's got those fat pads on the side of her tail, the top of her tail head, and the other side. That's a great shot right there. I mean, that is just pure fat. She looked noticeably smaller to me when I came down this morning. And, the camera probably won't pick it up. If you don't look at these animals every single day, if you don't look at your animals every single day, then you're probably not gonna catch those indicators. But she just looked skinnier to me. And that is of concern because, again, she's always the heaviest. She is always the one that's the most filled out. But she also is the one that always eats everything. It seems like she is the least picky of them all. She eats all sorts of tree branches, forbs, stuff that I would consider weeds, or that I would look at and think, no cow is going to eat that. She goes after it. And so the fact that she is hungry and is clearly not getting enough to eat is of greatest concern, because she is the one that will find something to eat no matter where she is at. So for me, the first indicator was when I came out this morning. Even before they saw me, I heard them bellering. They were mooing, they were bellering, they were being very noisy, almost to the point that I thought that when I came down here, I was going to find one of them outside of the wire, or separated from the herd, or something actually serious going on. They were yelling and screaming even before they saw me. So that's a big indicator to me that they are unhappy to the point that they're actually starving. Then, like I said, when I came down, just looking at them right away, I could just tell they were just skinnier, they were thinner, they were less filled out. That death triangle was very apparent. They carried on even more once they saw me. So that was another indicator. It's more than just normal complaining, like, hey, we're hungry, move us, or hey, do you have something, some sweet treat, protein cubes to feed us, or something like that. This was more than that. This was just, they all were extended, kind of stressed moos. And then the fact that they almost mowed me over when I was trying to set up that new strip. So normally they're very patient. Normally they wait. They might line up by that temporary fence before I open it up to let them into the new area. But it was getting almost dangerous that I was trying to get this stuff set up, and they were on my heels. They couldn't wait to move. So I changed my strategy. we had already grazed that western 2 acres, and then I was going to strip them through. I was going to strip them through all the way down here. But what I decided to do was I basically found a good break in this pasture, and I put a cross fence splitting this half in two. So they're going to be on this large chunk for as long as I feel like, you know, they're going to be eating quality forage and gaining weight. And then once I feel like they've used up everything over here, then I'll open up that second half and they'll have access to the other half over here. And then after that happens, then I'm gonna spend a few days feeding hay. But I'm gonna feed them hay on here. And then I'm gonna mow it. I think I'm even gonna mow that front half that they've grazed already. I'm gonna mow that here either today or tomorrow, get that knocked down, see if I can get any regrowth on it. And then once they work their way through this half, then I'm gonna mow this half. And hopefully, you know, if we get some good fall rains, again, it's probably not gonna be significant regrowth, but if I can knock all this stuff down and just get some decent grass growth on here, then probably turn them back out here sometime in the fall. So definitely not the length of time that I hoped I was going to get out of this pasture. I mean, in all honesty, I'm probably going to be off of here in a week, or, you know, they're going to have used all this up in about a week's time, which puts me just at about 3 weeks on this 4 acres. So I knew it coming in. Like I said, I knew it coming in that it wasn't going to be as great as I had hoped, but hopefully I can get, you know, some regrowth on here. And again, this was totally a learning mistake for me. But at the end of the day, we are moving backwards by the animals losing body condition going into winter. That is extremely counterproductive, and that totally defeats the purpose of trying to secure this leased land. And if I have to put them back on our home ranch, back on our home pastures sooner, before they are as thick as they can be, then that's what I'm going to have to do. Because again, the last thing I want is for the cows to lose condition going into winter. You are not going to get it back. You cannot feed enough hay. I mean, you can feed enough hay and supplements to actually get cows to gain weight, but when that temperature drops, the amount of hay and supplements I will have to feed to try and get them to gain weight over the winter will be impossible and will be financially undoable. So I need to keep their weight up as much as I can going into winter. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. 2 things. 1, it has never been so satisfying mowing something down. That Queen Anne's lace has been driving me nuts since I moved onto this property. It's so thick and it's like ropes. I mean, it will trip you up, it'll tie you up. I'm so happy I'm getting to mow it over. Feels good. The second thing, I kind of had a feeling that this was happening, but I hadn't witnessed it firsthand. Just saw it. The cows are now eating Canadian thistle, which is awesome. Anyone who knows the name Kathy Voth, she writes for an online publication called On Pasture. She did a great how to get your cows to eat weeds. And earlier this year, I really tried to get them to eat Canadian thistle because we had a pretty good outbreak in one of our pastures, and I thought if I could get them to graze it, that would be good. Didn't have any luck. They nibbled on it. It didn't really work, or I thought it didn't work. This morning when I was out here checking cows, I noticed that there were a handful of thistle flowers and just thistle tops that were bitten clean off, and I thought, maybe, but probably not. Well, I just saw all the cows eating Canadian thistle, which is awesome. It has just as much protein as alfalfa, which I think is 22%. 22% protein Canadian thistle has. So are they eating it because they are starving, because this stuff is junk and they're just looking for anything? Or are they eating it because they're actually low on protein and they're supplementing themselves? I have noticed there's very little clover in this pasture, obviously. The clover hasn't had a chance to grow up because of how thick all this stuff is. But either way, That's awesome, because I hope that that'll translate over to when I put them back on the home ranch, that they can start attacking some of the thistle we have there. So there totally is a positive to this mistake that was putting cows on this leased pasture. Say what we will about monocultures and lack of diversity in pastures, but there definitely is something appealing to watching a herd of cows wander across and graze on a nice groomed, short pasture. Definitely looks a lot more appealing to the human eye